actually diving straight into the winners match of Group D now. I think a lot of people are very much looking forward to seeing those boys on the server again. SpaceStation Gaming, essentially London Spitfire, joined by Funny Astro and Psycho. Noteworthy, but not really relevant, of course, is that a good bunch of those players have been playing for Ex Oblivione in the past at some point, including Christopher, who's on the coaching bench, who also worked with Ex Oblivione. Again, has absolutely no bearings on this game and is super irrelevant, but I wanted to mention it anyway. And here's the opposition, Matt.
well, I mean, these are, we've kind of like gone through some of the top teams yesterday, right? With the 1, 2, and 3 seeds playing. These are the 4 and 5 seeds overall in EMEA. For Ex Oblivione, a lot of people would know Shockwave out there, right? Shockwave has been a player who came on the scene, right? We saw a lot of like Ash play, a lot of hit scan play from him, some fantastic stuff. But I know on paper this should be our, we had yesterday, we said the left right good night match, like that was pretty competitive back and forth. Like this should be the most competitive group of winners match.
Yeah, 100%. I think we'll get a close one here. Canale also represented Spain, I think, alongside Gala in the World Cup. Cloud, of course, with Finland. So we do have some players that really represent the top cut of their particular regions here. And this Ex Oblivione team, I mean, they did win our Flash Shops Holiday Showdown, right? Yes, it was a different team. Yes, we had like Backbone, Funny Astro, Hardy on there. Yes, I know that. But Ex Oblivione is a revolving door of top players from EMEA. So expect that they've again put together another scary looking roster here. Lijiang Tower falling out of the map veto here, coming into map 1. We'll catch up with Zoe after this one, Matt. But again, this is one I'm excited for because frankly, we've had one-sided games thus far in these winners matches. We want to see a really competitive Group D to round things out.
Yeah, I also think the map 2 selection by Ex Oblivione is interesting in terms of Blizzard World because as I think everybody who probably has followed Overwatch Esports and Hotty's career, right, he wants to play he can play like the Winston and more dive tanks, right, but he's more natural in terms of like a rush style of play, which Blizzard World kind of requires like that verticality. So it's kind of where you see that map veto process play in a little bit.
It's not just Hardy's proclivities for playing like Reinhardt or Reinhardt-esque heroes, it's also the rest of SpaceStation playing around that. I mean, this team last year in the Overwatch League were innovators, especially with that Symmetra-based composition. They led the way. There were so many teams that tried to emulate that style of being kind of anywhere at once and finding really interesting axes upon which to sort of start engagements with that teleporter. So if we see that again here, something to look forward to. It's less likely. We've seen Hardy already play a bit more Winston than the average tank player throughout the qualifiers so far. Something to look out for. Again, it has its vulnerabilities, but we know how effective a dive comp can be, especially if your opposition is toting like a Cassidy style pick, man.
Interesting. So we're going to see Tracer Reaper on both sides here. But SpaceStation's going to combo that with like a Winston, Lucio, Kariko, as you're going to have the Ramatra on the other side. So Hotty's got to be really careful. The Ramatra just has like a lot of just staying power in fights, where maybe you can actually, access the backline a little bit better with this Winston.
Yeah, remember, again, with these Ramatra comps, you want to try and blow through the front line and get onto a healer or a squishy target. Hardy can obviously do that on the Winston, but has to be careful because he takes a face full of damage up close from that Ramatra. It's Backbone already. Gonna be fading off the point. Ex Oblivione, they do start off with this robust rush style, so it's hard to really contest the point against them initially. SpaceStation move in though. Hardy look to try and set up there, and here come the punches. Funny Astro a little bit low and has to back away. The Vortex though will be sidestepped by Psycho. His Chase Nail's on the defensive. They're pushing up. Backbone has to be careful though, as Shockwave came in from the side like only the Reaper guy can.
Yeah, that's a recall out from Psycho, but he's got a pulse bomb already. I mean, look at that compared to Cloud, right? But it's going to be Coalescence here. It's Ex Oblivione just trying to push them back. As they have control of the point. We really haven't had like this fight's been just kind of going back and forth forever.
That was beautiful though. They've rotated Hardy so nicely into that Coalescence. It's a dangerous position to be in. When that Moira built that ult first here, SpaceStation hoping to find back with a Kitsune rush, and it looks like it would have worked out. But Ex Oblivione are able to hold their ground here. The Coalescence gives them a strong position to play from. Hardy being the last one standing means that Ex Oblivione are able to work around him very effectively.
We had one fight where we're past 50% on the point. SpaceStation ends up using what? Pulse Bomb, a Sound Barrier, and Kitsune Kitsune rush during that, where Ex Oblivione, when you hold on to all these ultimates, you're in a fantastic spot.
Hardy's spot shockwave there, forces him into Wraith Walk. He wants to play point here, but
you can just ignore him if you wanted to.
For the most part, they are, right? Hardy will demand some attention now, though, with the Primal Rage. Again, he looked on as most of Ex Oblivione tried to push into those close quarters and benefit as much as they could from shockwaves, up close damage. Eventually, though, they're able to play to the tune of Hardy's drum when he makes that engagement from the point, effectively pincering them with that Primal.
Yes, and SpaceStation finally able to break on through. It's really just kind of on the back of the Primal Rage that Shockwave ends up going with the Death Blossom there, but gets like kind of knocked out of, you know, really anybody's range on SpaceStation, and SpaceStation able to just kind of clean up the floor with Ex Oblivione. I wonder if they try and use maybe Sound Barrier to engage here. It's actually, that's Backbone just kind of lurking on the side. He gets the Moira. That's huge.
A ton of value if you can actually chase some of these kills down here. I think that's what you're looking for. Crispy would be absolutely unhinged to make use of the Sound Barrier here. And Backbone spots a really tight timing just to throw a Death Blossom down and get an insta-kill on Canale.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way you think about investing Sound Barrier there. It's like so impactful, but look at this. Like we talked about how SpaceStation, that first fight in the loss with like 50%, you know, for Ex Oblivione, use both support ultimates. Crispy's still holding on to the Sound Barrier, hasn't really had a great opportunity to use it, where Funny Astro and Landon have already built back up their ults.
Crucially, yeah, Landon building up that Kitsune rush early, and Backbone's already taken down Shockwave. That's massive. Canale here under a bit of pressure. The Winston bubble is a little bit annoying to deal with as the Moira. It's going to be an annihilation, popped by Chase. Sound Barrier to follow it up, and look at the mass disengage here. Cloud tries to chase SpaceStation down with a pulse bomb, but can't find any connection, and Backbone's found another kill in this fight. It's a Sound Barrier and annihilation, and you've come up with nothing for Ex Oblivione. That one's gonna sting.
Yeah, that's a really nice play though by SpaceStation Gaming, right? They see the annihilation Sound Barrier, they back up a little bit. Ex Oblivione just chases a little bit too far, and they run right into the Kitsune rush, right? Landon drops it, they speed boost, they come right back, and they just mow him down.
Still a Coalescence to work with, but it's going to be a bit of a last-ditch attempt here for Ex Oblivione. Canale will open up. Straight away, Backbone having to fade away. It's going to be a Sound Barrier and a response though for SpaceStation. They really had the antidote to this Coalescence. Ex Oblivione no closer to capturing the point that they were before. That Coalescence came down, and Chase has no choice but to try and contest. He walks straight into the Hellfire shotguns, and now Psycho gets himself onto the kill feed and will clean things up pretty comfortably here. It's a good start map, but I feel like Ex Oblivione, purely on virtue of their composition being better grouped up, are the ones that started with the point there.
Yeah, you know, they got a huge lead early on, but once they gave it up, they had really no chance at getting it back as SpaceStation played it pretty much to perfection there. I do wonder, like, can you make this Winston work against like some of the other comps we're seeing, right? Like, you know, Zarya, Cassidy out there and whatnot, like you know, even like Doomfist based like compositions. I think Winston's been a character who has been maybe a little bit like underutilized potentially, you know, in the current patch. So we'll see how SpaceStation kind of moves throughout. I know this weekend, this event, I know including the main event, right, with this Winston-based composition. It looks like both teams, Cloud is just going to use this to TP out, just get a little bit of a head start, and then switch to Tracer. Yeah, so almost have mirror matchup, but you're going to have Landon on the Kariko versus the Moira.
Yeah, that's something we're looking at. Canale obviously wants to build a Coalescence in this first engagement as quickly as possible. That said, Ex Oblivione aren't taking any poke damage. They're actually playing off the point here, so less opportunities for free healing and ult charge there for Canale.
I think you're just playing the Moira here, I know, with Canale, because you're going to play closer to the Ramatra. You're going to play a little bit more kind of grouped together, so you get like tons of value out of the Moira healing, where as SpaceStation, you're going to be all over the place, right? So you can have Landon TP all around to get a little bit more value from the offensive side.
That is a very disruptive Vortex thrown out there by Chase. And it will be Ex Oblivione starting in control of the point once more, but SpaceStation always know how to get their engines running when it's time to go. We're looking for, Backbone here, who's forced into Wraith Walk now. Awkward timing, but Shockwave's been picked off. It's a kunai that finds its mark from Landon. And now Chase is caught off the point. No teammates to really play around here. Crispy attempting to intercede, but no one paying any heed to the Lucio right now until the fight's all but done. Canal does build the Coalescence, and the team of Ex Oblivione build up 24%.
It just doesn't look great for Ex Oblivione, right? Where you're just sat there in the back of the point and just like kind of allowing them to just dive on in and just get that deep and really, you know, force you into like a really bad situation. Anytime that Ramatra is just on the point, just power blocking, not ideal.
It's such an early sound barrier for Funny Astro. He built that extremely fast in that first fight. This Coalescence here mostly ignored. Canal, Crispy still very low, and the pulse is going to connect on the Moira. The fade timing was not there. And the Primal Rage will do it. I think Funny Astro identifies there. He's too far from the wall to get skating back onto the point. But SpaceStation remain in control. They have the flexibility of Hardy if he needs to turn around and contest. And it's a full regroup for Exo.
So what actually happened there was Canal actually used the fade a little bit earlier, and I believe the pulse bomb was actually stuck onto Chase, and he just power blocked. And obviously there's no way that Canal could get away from him at that point, and I think it was just kind of secondary fire, so to speak.
Seen that happen a lot. Seen that happen yesterday a little bit on Lijiang Tower as well. The timing of that fade and, you know, getting that forced out by Reaper Tracer, you've got to be very careful as Moira. Sometimes you have no choice but to use it, but it puts you in an even worse situation afterwards. Psycho, another one. The Canale gets taken down. Speaking of the Moira, having that mobility pressured out early. It's a great stick, though, as the Wraith Walk came down, but the sound barrier was there, and Backbone even opts to go for a Death Blossom amidst all of that. Cloud says, right, we need to reset right now.
Yeah, as Crispy gets the sound barrier down, just like maybe a second or two after you lose Canale, so you don't have the Moira there after, which then SpaceStation Gaming, right? Funny Astro with the later beat, you have the Death Blossom going as well. You're just in a way better spot as Ex Oblivione just one more shot here to just kind of flip this point to keep themselves alive in map number 1.
It's pretty clean stuff from SpaceStation, Matt. Gotta say it.
Yeah.
Psycho with the pulse here. I see. He sees Shockwave come out of Wraithwalk there. I like the idea. Canale gonna be knocked off the map anyway, though. Annihilation. This is awkward for Hardy and co. A little bit of a top up, but that Mega's not gonna be back in time, and Chase gets himself 3. This will put Exo back in the game.
Yeah, I mean, the Ramatra ultimate's so difficult to just get away from there. Hardy actually just kind of going for the Mega, but Chase had already picked it up. So Ex Oblivione does get control over the point back. Kitsune Rush available here for SpaceStation Gaming, though. I think you just want to try and make this a fight on the point, right? Get the Kitsune Rush and then run the Reaper in behind it.
Ex Oblivione happy to give some ground here. They have the Coalescence to fall back on, as the Kitsune Rush will mostly be circumvented. Keep it on the Death Blossom for Shockwave. That's why we're on board right now. But trading at length, though, has not favored him thus far. Hardy is a Primal. Maybe they've tracked this now. It's going to be a problem for the Death Blossom. As look at this. Shockwave is knocked away. Hardy will be able to move himself really out of trouble, but he's chased down by Cloud. He doesn't make it to the Mega Health Pack there. Great little identification of Cloud and an opportunity to get rid of such a key piece.
Yeah, Hardy again trying to go back to that Mega Health Pack. This time on his side of the map. Jumps over the wall. But Cloud does a nice job of following up a lot of the damage put down there by Shockwave, where Ex Oblivione right back in this 80%, right? You're looking at this like next fight kicking off, you're going to be about even in terms of, you know, with the sound barrier on both sides and the pulse bomb. You know, maybe you're able to build up this Coalescence with Canale, and that could be the difference.
Psycho needs his teammates to force some of these Wraith Walks and fades away first.
That's brutal.
I don't know if he had a chance to use his, man. I'll be honest. He got caught in the fray once more. It's not the first time it's happened this game, and Backbone thought about it there. Looks like the sound barrier got forced out, and he's grinning from ear to ear because he gets one of his own, and he can sit on the Death Blossom until there is no durability left on his opponents. That overshield will be gone now, and Backbone can hit Q at any point. Cloud finds a big pulse bomb here on a Funny Astro, and the Kitsune Rush now is going to mean that Reaper is hitting hard and fast. And he'll be able to force Exo off the point for now. There'll be an opportunity for a contest. A Doomfist switch from Chase. He wants to make his way into the fray, but oh god. That's not okay. Rose isn't even casting.
Not ideal, right? Not great. Backbone did a great job there though earlier on. No, they know that he has a Death Blossom. They know Ex Oblivione knows that Backbone has a Death Blossom. He uses the Wraith form, goes in, he pushes like the supports so far out, and then actually doesn't end up using it, goes back, gets a sound barrier, and starts cleaning up in the point. Yeah, I don't know. We obviously don't have a replay of it, but like maybe the Lucio was supposed to go through the window, got boot back, knocked back somebody around the corner. Maybe they thought they had triggered the OT. Remember they made that change ages ago where like how it kind of Like they've changed it a few times in Overwatch 2 about how it like kind of ticks. Not a great way to end though for Ex Oblivione.
No, look, I can't be happy with that.
They were starting to look better, and the map was actually pretty competitive. They actually had a chance to maybe even pull that one out with some ultimates there.
Yeah, like I think a lot of it has to do with how they play around the Winston, right? Hardy has a tough job, right? He's actually opting to play this Winston into like a Reaper frontline with a Ramatra.
Yeah.
These are heroes that are generally quite hostile to the Winston. Hardy's really hoping to get past them for the most part. But when you're playing against this rush style that tends to group up together, there's also Lucio that can send you Karini back into, an enemy Reaper. There's a lot of issues there. So you saw some moments of difficulty there for Hardy, but whenever he had the Primal Rage, it was like an insta-win fight, especially on a map like Night Market, with that environmental kill potential, makes a huge difference here. Stick around, everybody. Map number 2 coming up. A close shave there for SpaceStation Gaming. Ex Oblivione got to be hungry, even hungrier after that map loss. Oh, welcome back, everybody, from the break that we weren't actually supposed to take. When I heard no break in my head, I decided to go to a break. So love that. That's just your boy losing an hour of sleep this morning. Well, welcome back, everybody. Ex Oblivione need to wake up as well. Not the start that they were looking for, especially on Control Center. They started with the point based on that Ramatra comp, but they eventually got whittled down by this Winston-based dive composition that not many teams are playing. Trust Hardy to play something different, to go against the grain, but man, he's got the players around him and the individual skill to make it work. We got a substitution here as Cookie gets subbed in for Shockwave.
Yeah, is maybe this is to play the Sojourn here on Blizzard World. Sojourn, pretty good hero here to control the high ground. Shockwave we know to play like the Ashe and things like that. So potentially this is a Sojourn substitution. We'll have to see how it plays out. But
does Shockwave not play Sojourn?
I mean, he does, right?
That's fraudulent. He definitely plays Sojourn. I wonder what they're cooking here. And again,
so yeah, I mean, Cookie here is into play the Sojourn here on defense to kick things off. The one thing that's quite interesting is like Ex Oblivione maybe goes this map thinking that they can control the high ground a little bit, to make it quite difficult on SpaceStation, but SpaceStation playing that Winston-based comp looks so clean in map number 1, it may not work out in their favor.
Again, we talked about this a lot yesterday. I think it's going to be a conversation that continues about, your choice of that non-tracer DPS and the mobility options that they give you, especially when you're dealing with like a Winston dive, right? Cookie being able to reposition in a pinch, and much of Ex Oblivione's roster being able to do that here makes it even harder for Hardy to stick to his intended targets. It'll be Reaper and Tracer here for SpaceStation. This is their comp. They really enjoy running it down with the Winston at the 4.
I'm curious how this works up against like having the Sojourn in the mix, right? Just that one-shot kill potential, right? Being able to farm up some of Hadi's shield. Maybe you're able to get a kill, whether it be on the Psycho or the support. So see if that Sojourn makes a difference.
Here's Hardy. Over the top here, TP came in from Backbone, so they very quickly assumed the high ground, but Ex Oblivione's response would be to push into the rest of SpaceStation if they weren't also really sticky and slippery rather and hard to catch. So Ex Oblivione back to the point now, still high ground being controlled. Crispy, I think, attempted to wrest it back, but he will be punished for that.
It's a really nice boop there from Funny Astro there for knocking some players from that high ground down below as both teams are just kind of like circling each other, right? Like just trading position. Funny Astro changes all of that with a really nice boop.
They're going to be quick here. Cloud steps up, takes a face full of damage, but is able to stall out the point for the time being. A disruptor shot thrown down to make it harder for SpaceStation to push into Ex Oblivione, but losing Chase means that this one is chalked. Psycho gets another one. Pulse Bomb connection on the Sojourn, no less. And we'll be off to the races as the cart emerges.
Man, SpaceStation looks so clean. I mean, the play from Funny Astro and Landon, like, one of the better support duos I think we probably have in the OWCS period, right? Just the plays from Funny Astro to knock players down from that high ground as they're both trying to change positions. Ex Oblivione now has the natural high ground on defense. Let's see how SpaceStation does about like forcing them off of that.
Ex Oblivione don't want to hang out there for too long. Yeah, they have to go. It's kind of what their comp does, right? Get them in there, leave the Sojourn maybe as a loose end and have her find that damage, but Coalescence there, not particularly convincing from Canale because again, SpaceStation was so slippery, so hard to catch. Now the Kitsune Rush means that EXO have to turn tail and give a bit of ground here. They may not be permitted to do so though. Look at how aggressively SSG are pushing up.
You can't sit there and fight the Reaper in the rush, right? I know it just pumps out too much damage with the shotguns. Is giving up a lot of space already here as Ex Oblivione. They need to win a fight.
Oh, Chase tried to stay up on the high ground, but now he's going to be surrounded. He survives for long enough for Backbone at least to be picked up preemptively in that trade, but losing your main tank is brutal. Sound Barrier came out after the fact. Another one from Crispy that he might wished he had back.
They do get haughty though, so maybe you can't keep this going if you're SpaceStation, right? Like you've got, enough progress here, but now SpaceStation can come back with a sound barrier in this next fight.
Chase is here though, that's the big difference maker, and I think that sound barrier from Crispy, while it wasn't enough to save Chase, it did allow them to withstand that secondary dive midway through the fight from SpaceStation.
So the one thing here for Ex Oblivione though, Mitch, is that you'll have overclock, right? But you'll also have the annihilation where you can't exactly just kind of like use sound barrier and push through the annihilation. I mean, maybe if you get them quite low, but it's going to be quite difficult to do so.
Chase appears before Psycho now. Recall comes back just in time, and Hardy's to the rescue. Here's the annihilation, but Psycho's able to get out of it. Is Hardy? No. He's going to be caught by the railgun there as he tries to retreat. And again, Ex Oblivione have the antidote to the dive.
Yeah, so it was a little bit of, maybe an early sound barrier there from Funny Astro, like on the engage. You get the annihilation out. Maybe this is kind of like your win con here. They end up using their annihilation. They end up using the overclock from the high ground. You have the point pretty close. Can you force fight on the point and then have Backbone, you don't even need the Death Blossom, right? Just get the Reaper inside of the Kitsune Rush and force the fight in there. And you feel like that's a good enough way to win this next fight.
Backbone again back towards the cart.
Yeah, like the cart's gonna get so close. You're gonna have to fight this, right? Even though you probably don't want to.
Yep. Backbone was hoping they'd drop on him and make an easy Death Blossom, but he might have to look for that opportunity himself. Cloud is down. Landon's able to find a crucial kill midway through this fight, and yet SpaceStation are waiting on something. Psycho with a pulse that we're waiting on Hardy's jump timing. Backbone will be knocked back, but not before he claims Cookie. Sound barrier again comes down for only 4 for Ex Oblivione, but they got no choice to set their feet now. Canale in trouble, forced to fade there. Psycho with a pulse bomb could stick that to Chase, but well, it doesn't quite connect. He himself, though, eats one. What a stick from Cloud. Another Tracer stuck. That's 2 in 2 days. Another dive here. Crispy in trouble in the backline, trying to escape from Hardy, but a Primal Rage would have sealed the deal had he not had the legwork to get there himself. Cookie now in trouble big time. Canale with a desperate biotic orb here with stall, and they've been able to find Landon in the meantime. Hardy also can't stick to the Sojourn on the high ground, and that's dangerous for Backbone. Cookie had too much room to work with for the time being, and now the Doomfist has returned to the fight. 90 seconds left on the clock here. Eventually Hardy is able to fully commit with a Primal to getting rid of the Sojourn. That's gotta have to give it to SpaceStation here. Chase is low, won't have many cooldowns to rotate through, and SpaceStation get that second checkpoint.
No, I mean, Ex Oblivione did all they could there, right, to just make it interesting with players coming back from the spawn. As Chase will go back to the Ramatra, but SpaceStation doing a really nice job with like using even, you know, Backbone and Hardy together, right, where you're able to get the Reaper to TP like almost into the Winston bubble, use that as like a little bit of protection to get Backbone into position there with the Winston and make a play.
Overclock here for Cookie, showing us exactly why they were substituted in for Shockwave. Making it a little bit harder here for SpaceStation just to go where they please. It also makes it hard for SpaceStation to afford to give up the high ground in many of these cases. That's why they're headed straight there now. Reposition from Cookie though. The entirety of Ex Oblivione swapping sides of the map now.
You see Cookie though just looking everywhere, right? Just looking for where Backbone he thinks he's TPing, right? As soon as he sees him, he just runs out.
Here's the rush. This is awkward now as Ex Oblivione rotated back to hold the cart. Transcendence would be nice if they had a Zenyatta on the field, but they don't, because I'm talking about Coalescence right now. Canal throws one out here, but Landon's going to be eating a headshot on that pulse bomb. Cookie knew their fate was sealed the moment that came in. Chase in trouble. Another pulse dropped inside that bubble. Backbone off towards the side here. Knows he can build a Death Blossom in the next few moments and maybe just throw it into the mix here. Thinks twice about it.
Yeah, I was thinking, I was like, oh, does SpaceStation consider sound barring here? But you lose Hardy, and at that point, you just end up holding on to it, right? But Ex Oblivione doing a nice job pushing up, not giving them that space to dive in. They're starting to figure it out a little bit in the sense of, you know, when we see the Winston, the Reaper, you know, go in, use like whether it's the TP, the jump in the bubble, right? Like, let's just rotate out. Let's just circle out and just kind of like play that game in terms of clock.
SpaceStation so far have not been successful in being able to force Ex Oblivione to stand and deliver inside the Kitsune Rush Reaper combo. Obviously, Ex Oblivione don't have that available to them with the Lucio Moira set up, but they've made plenty of use of the Coalescence so far. Here's a sound barrier for Chase. Extra durability lets him delve a little deeper now with his Annihilation, and eventually Backbone decides to hit Q. It's Canale falling as a result of that, with the Coalescence just around the corner. An opportunity here for SpaceStation now to get a little closer to that checkbox. But Hardy is low once more. He's struggling. He doesn't want to use Primal, or doesn't have the option. Probably the former, as he had plenty of teammates to usher the cart forward.
Yeah, I think doesn't want to use it. Needs it here for potentially getting the cart over the line, as Ex Oblivione's put themselves in a position to getting a hold here, as it'll be Chase coming out on Diva. So the last minute swap.
Kitsune Rush up once more. Chase with that flexibility the Diva offers. Also, the defense matrix could shut down some of these key Reaper plays. Pulse bomb there. Canale doesn't have to worry about it too much. Psycho left it on the door frame here, trying to pressure Backbone down, who eventually can't overheal the Coalescence damage, so fades away for now. What a stick! Just after it used that cooldown as well. No connection though in the end. Damage not amounting to an elimination for Cloud. Backbone again in Wraith Walk here. Cookie really hoping to line him up, but it's Psycho in fact that stands in the way of the crosshair. Hardy's in trouble, sheltering under the bubble for the time being. Eventually he's going to have to depart. And Funny Astro falls. What a headshot from Cookie. And a great cleanup from Ex Oblivione. They're getting a feel for the pace of this Winston-based composition, Matt.
Yeah, I look, it's really their second point defense, right? Where they're able to just get back out onto the point constantly, like stall. Like that's probably, you know, that, and then even, you know, their kind of hold here at this first corner from maybe 2 fights is really what kind of gets Ex Oblivione back into this game, right? Preventing SpaceStation from completing the map. They don't even have to complete the map themselves, right? Like maybe it's like around that final corner a little bit. That's kind of where the cart ends up. So Ex Oblivione gives themselves a shot here. I wonder if we see them play the D.Va, if that's just more of a last minute swap. I know D.Va versus Winston. D.Va obviously has great survivability with the defense matrix, right? Can kind of like negate a lot of what the Reaper wants to do, but at least right now it looks like on offense going to stick with the same stuff.
Something that Kaluge did a lot last year on this map, actually, back in the league, where you'd use that defense matrix to basically render Reaper useless, because not only does he not do damage, but he can't lifesteal as a part of that, so it actually really hampers his survivability playing in the front line. But there's a lot of things that Ramantra offers you that D.Va just cannot even dream to. So now you're dealing with like a dive-based defense here from the Winston, which can be a little frustrating on this map, because you really don't get to decide when they drop down. But the win conditions with these compositions map have gotten so much more complicated now, because before you can think about getting eliminations, you have to think about forcing out those key cooldowns, the fades, and the recalls and the power slides before you can go in for the throw.
Well, also, I mean, healing was just like so high across the board that it was very simple to like, hey, let's just play like a death ball style and just like work down cooldowns, and like that's kind of going to be how we're going to play. Where I think now, healing obviously still really important. You can still play that type of style to an extent, but not as it's not as like universally agreed upon that is like the optimal way.
No, especially with the application of that DPS passive reducing healing. It's a huge difference maker, especially when Reaper gets to spread much of that damage around. Cookie here does take note of the flank beginning from the defending dive composition, but Lana gets taken down. There's just not enough pressure on the Sojourn here. Cookie was able to line one up. It'll be traded out. Funny Astro and Backbone both dive on the Sojourn, but they have to trade that kill as well. Cloud is there, playing alongside the Sojourn. Very good looks for Ex Oblivione here, and a very durable, very robust composition that is able to have this dive bounce off of it.
I feel like you're okay with that though. Like if you can open up the fight with a pick from Cookie and then like you lose maybe like 5-10 seconds after, right? I think just giving you that window of 5-on-4 for a brief period of time allows you to do something like this. Just take the 0.5 minutes plus in the bank. So really nice start there for Ex Oblivione. Now it's like, how do they get towards this high ground? You see Canale here, maybe think about using the coalescence if the dive comes in.
No, and if you find that first kill that's unanswered, a free pick, then every trade is a trade up for you. And that's what we saw in that fight. Cloud more than happy to capitalize on Cookie getting picked up and picking up Backbone as a result. So again, like Hardy Psycho, it's a little bit scary now to try to find a way in. They really have to assess this situation. And Ex Oblivione can be punished for bad positioning, but they're not displaying much of that at all here, man.
Yeah, they weren't really able to punish as much with the Reaper in the mix. This is Kitsune Rush here for Landon. It's just going to kind of like push them into the side room. Pulse Bomb doesn't get anything. But maybe now if you're Ex Oblivione, do you think about wrapping up the stairs and taking high ground here? I mean, that's a possibility.
Looks like that is the plan. Yeah. Let them drop back onto the card here. Hardy, in the next couple of seconds, really looking to line up a strong primal here. Into the back line. Subtlety not required. They get a sound barrier though for their travels. So Funny Astro's going to reciprocate with one of his own a little bit later. Hardy doesn't get that. He's inside the small room, but has the Primal Rage to lean on if he needs that extra durability. And now we have the Annihilation from Chase here. Ex Oblivione are being forced to part, or choosing rather, to part with some of these huge ultimates. They need to find value for them. I think the kills at DPS is probably not what they're looking for.
Bro, I mean, Chase had 58 HP. They're able to keep him alive, but it looks like the rest of the team's kind of crumbling around. I have to say, you got insane value there. As Backbone makes a switch over to Genji here, so no full-on dive. But Hadi leaped in, and they ended up layering the beat and coalescence on top of each other. And he just walks around and gets the mega health pack, and then just walks away, right? I mean, it's crazy value right there. If you're able to get both of those support ults out that early.
Even pop primal, he just dove.
No, he just dove into the room we're seeing in now and just grabbed the health pack and just walked away.
So for Funny Astro, he just said, okay, well, they have 2 support ults. I'm just going to throw beat down a couple seconds later. Great stick. Psycho finally finds one. He's been searching for him over the last couple of minutes, and that's a crucial one. Cookie, arguably the centerpiece of this composition, now out of the mix. Funny Astro got caught a little bit too close to the sun. If the sun had arms and flailed at you every time you got in proc, whatever. Chase got him.
the Genji is very much more of like a all-in burst, pick, right? Like maybe now you can actually kind of, I was gonna say get on top of Cookie playing the Sojourn, but gonna switch over and play the Reaper. So now you start to see a little bit of the mind games, right? Where you're switching back and forth constantly between some of these DPS to try and get an advantage.
I also think Backbone prefers this to some degree because you really do commit with that Reaper, right? If you don't have your TP available and you drop down, you are stuck on that low ground. Now you can head back upstairs, get a reset off any elimination and go for it again. Here's the Kitsune Rush. Chase gets absolutely overrun. Backbone leading the charge there. Canal hoping to try and kill Cookie, and this Coalescence, you have to wonder if there's value to be found. Cookie very low, and again with a DPS passive, this is a little tricky for Canal to keep him standing. A Cloud is sneaking. He's sneaking a back cap Space Station, none the wiser.
Bro.
And they're a little too late. Such feverish fighting over the second phase of the map here, and Space Station get too bloodlusted.
More things change, they stay the same, right? So back cap there comes on through. Nothing will compare to the young Jin C9, but I mean, we're getting some candidates early on for the best one in OWCS. It's
right. It's not
now you're in like this. I mean, it's just a really weird spot because now you're in this spot where Space Station, where like everybody's like alive, and you're kind of like here, but on the offensive side of the map. It's a really bizarre spot to be in. Probably not one you want to be in if you're Space Station, because look at this, Drew walking away with the cart.
Yeah, I mean, and this is Ex Oblivione. They did this in that first half as well, constantly just flipping the map on Space Station, making it a bit awkward for the dive comp, which already has to kind of engage and choose where they're going to play from. Canal's low. Here's the fade. Backbone, blood in the water, but it's going to be an annihilation. Sound barrier combo to shut the Genji down. Hardy's going to have to get out of there. Psycho tries a pulse bomb, still able to find Crispy. That's probably worth it now. You're drawing out some huge ultimates from Ex Oblivione, slowing them down to some degree, but is the Lucio pick enough now when Chase is swinging haymakers at the rest of your team?
Chase gets Psycho and he's not even looking at him, right? The annihilation is Psycho solo trying to get back towards Landon as he's alive at that time, but just gets taken out with the kind of tentacles of the annihilation. Where Ex Oblivione in a spot here, Mitch, to get the card to this golden box of victory. Death Blossom, Pulse Bomb, Coalescence available. Should be way too overpowering if they play this right.
Canal, how do you think about this Coalescence here?
Yeah, I mean, Rush, you just have to, they're just they're not fast enough on just backing out of that, right? Like maybe they could have predicted that a little bit, like kind of get to the corner, fake like they're going to go and get the rush out and then back up, but I didn't have the speed boost to get themselves out of that. So the Kitsune Rush has bought Space Station Gaming a bit of time here. Primal Rage should allow them to stall as well, and we're only at a minute, so this is still doable for Space Station Gaming.
Yeah, it's scary, I think, for Ex Oblivione that Space Station win a fight with just the Kitsune Rush. Death Blossom is fine here for Cookie, but there's so much displacement on the Space Station side, especially if there's a Primal Rage in play. You've got 50 seconds. You need to start to make this happen if you're going to need a second fight. The first needs to happen right about now. Here's the Coalescence. Hardy looking to try and interrupt it, and Canal gets taken out by Psycho. That's devastating for Ex Oblivione. 40 seconds left in the round, and Hardy now looking for Crispy. Where does the Lucio go? Hardy has to trade himself out, but Chase already got picked up, and that's it for this fight. EXO have one more, and they don't have a Death Blossom to make it work with.
And it's brutal, I mean, because you're going to have a sound barrier on the other side, so you're going to get almost no value out of that. Backbone at 76%, the fight gets kind of extended. He's going to end up with a Death Blossom later. So, Crispy has to get this sound barrier soon, has to make it worth it.
Oh my goodness, Cloud takes a big hit from somewhere else. Not going to be alive there, gets out of the way. Psycho allowed to retain his claim to this flanking route, and looks to utilize that. As he sees Crispy, he sees Canal, both grouped up in that low room. Space Station have given Ex Oblivione enough time to build up that sound barrier, though, and Lander gets taken down first. Cloud from zero to hero went so low earlier in the fight, but is able to come back with a vengeance. Psycho's hoping to make some use of this pulse bomb here. Sees Cookie, just throws it down a little bit wayward, I'd say. His Backbone's forced into Wraith Walk now with the Annihilation in play. They've allowed Ex Oblivione to build up these big ultimates, and they are using it to stuff them back into spawn in overtime. EXO take Blizzard World.
I mean, the annihilation there towards the end, there is absolutely nothing you can do about that. Everybody needs to just kind of float onto the point there for Space Station Gaming, and then Chase just pops the Annihilation and just starts to go crazy. I mean, at that point, right, everybody's forced to play around. You can just play with the power block, get the heals, and just kind of like let everybody just tick down over time. But Ex Oblivione, yeah, no, that back cap ended up being huge, right? Getting that second checkpoint, and then they needed really every second into OT to be able to get it over the line.
I actually wonder if there's a window there right towards the end of the round, about 30 seconds left before Crispy builds that sound barrier. If there's a window for Space Station to
get
win
aggressive
the map
and like go.
Yeah, I mean, they won one fight with only Kitsune Rush. The next fight, there's a coalescence from Canale. They shut that down mostly with Hardy and Psycho just pressuring the Mora during the ultimate. Then they sort of wait. All right, we see like Psycho wins that 1 versus 1 against Cloud. Cloud is low, has to give up. Psycho doesn't want to commit. He doesn't want to push into the supports on the other side of the map there for whatever reasons. It's possible. I think it was winnable.
Yeah, I think it's probably not how Space Station would have played that final fight. I think, losing Landon early probably forces them to maybe beat a little bit earlier than they would have liked to, right? And then I think it kind of like spirals after that. But Ex Oblivione, it's their map pick there on Blizzard World. They get it out at the end. The back half ends up giving them the second checkpoint, which it was like there's like not a ton of time left even there as well, right? So they put themselves in this series. It's like a tough thing to potentially bounce back from. This is a Space Station Gaming's pick, this next map, Esperanca.
Yeah, like I've been enjoying seeing how Ex Oblivione are adjusting to the Winston composition. The eye test always says, wow, this Winston comp looks much harder to play properly than the Ramatra setup. Like Hardy has to be extremely careful. And there are going to be a number of situations, as good as Hardy is, where he just goes too far, gets caught out. There's a bunch of damage that he doesn't expect to end up coming his way. And all of a sudden he doesn't have the chance to jump back to his team. He knows this. So he says, I have to manufacture a large number of opportunities for the rest of my team before that happens. Or, during that window in these fights. This is the kind of comp that requires an elite level of coordination. But that's what you kind of expect from this Space Station Gaming team. They've been together for so long. They're able to leverage that in games like this, especially with comps that are a bit more risky to play. We got a roster change, I think. Ex Oblivione making a substitution at Shockwave back in the lineup.
Yeah, so Shockwave coming back in here for Esperanca. I wonder, look, we saw Cookie come in, play the Sojourn, played some Reaper. Wonder if this is maybe you want to play, the just Reaper full time, and you feel like that's kind of where Shockwave would fit the best in the lineup. So we'll see what they decide to do here.
Yeah, it definitely feels like Cookie, when he made that switch over towards the Reaper, was a little bit less of preference and more of necessity, as Colosseo gets banned out as part of our push maps, and SSG say, well, we prefer Esperanca over New Queen Street, which stands to reason. This team, I want to point out, most of this team last year also played a lot of Winston on Esperanca. When it was particularly difficult to do, we saw this all the way through the playoffs in the Overwatch League.
Yeah,
they would play Winston against like Junker Queen. They would play it against Ramatra comps on this map. Hardy really preferred to go that way, so I wouldn't be surprised if that trend is continued here.
No, and they look pretty comfortable on these Winston-based compositions, right? You get the Winston bubble down, Winston in, you get Reaper in the mix, right? Psycho can obviously, get in and out with relative ease on Tracer. You make it pretty difficult for like an opposing team. I know, like, let's say Ramatra, right? Standing there, the Winston jumps in, gets in his face. Reaper going to be there in a second. Like, you need to kind of get him out, right? So just kind of create some space, forces players back into positions they maybe don't want to be in.
It's something to bear in mind. In terms of the rest of these compositions, probably don't expect to see too many changes. The Lucio Kiriko core is just a little bit too good right now to look away from. And Tracer just seems to have been an element of almost every metagame for about as long as we can remember. So many of the changes occur at tank and at that secondary DPS position. But this is a map that Sojourn has always looked and felt very comfortable on. Reaper is also very powerful. We did see Backbone obviously make a switch to the Genji during Blizzard World, maybe to give more, I don't know, hard-hitting power when the dive came down. Also the ability to retreat back to those high grounds with, Genji's verticality if needed. And again, he's pretty good at forcing out some of these ultimates here. So quite often, he would pull up on Canale and try and get a fade forced or even a coalescence in some cases there. So and something the Backbone's pretty comfortable on as well. Shockwave, obviously someone we've known who's played the Hanzo at times as well. A lot of these longer range sort of hit scan.
Yeah,
so that may be in the back pocket, but I just don't see you not playing Sojourn against a Winston comp.
I think the Genji was more for like, you know, the Sojourn up on the high ground, right? In that type of situation, you're able to, you know, access the Sojourn a bit easier, you know, getting towards that high ground than like kind of the slow TPs of the Reaper and such, where I think ideally they'd want to play the Reaper, would be for SpaceStation Gaming. So I think they'll probably come out here with like Reaper, Tracer, Winston, you know, nothing surprising there. And I think you'll probably see Ex Oblivione stay with pretty much the same things as well.
So yeah, Sojourn being considered here by Shockwave. Again, I think if you are on the aggressive, if you win that first fight and you can take control of the enemy team's bridge, that Sojourn starts to give you a pretty insane amount of value. SpaceStation, though, obviously with this sort of more dive-esque composition, can play from that lower ground pretty happily. I mean, just sort of make their way upstairs. It's just part of their dive. It's really a problem when it comes to scouting who actually is up on that high ground. Back in the days of Sombra, it was much easier.
Shockwave in and on the Sojourn here. So you brought out Shockwave for Cookie in the last map to play, you know, Sojourn Reaper, and then you bring back Shockwave to come in to play the Sojourn here, and also we've seen Shockwave play the Reaper, so might be a map substitution. Like you just kind of, you want maybe Cookie in on Blizzard World, or right there they do a nice job of just kind of like pincering in on Shockwave, getting him down first.
And you saw Canale through a healing bionic orb attempting to keep Shockwave standing. That wasn't nearly enough though, based on where he was standing. Positioning costing Ex Oblivione in that fight. Chase goes extremely low. Heidi would ideally like the kill, so he doesn't give all this free ult charge over to Ex Oblivione's support, who would just top Chase back up, but that's not an option here. SpaceStation will have to settle for taking this bridge for now, and they very quickly assume that position.
Yes, they get high ground here as you see Chase through the X-ray, just trying to fight this in any way possible, as going to end up building up towards Coalescence here shortly, as see when Chase uses that like their Nemesis form, just tries to chase anybody down and not able to find any target. That's when they leave, and yeah, you lose Shockwave again.
This time at the cost of Backbone, to be fair. This Coalescence, though, little more than a light show for Ex Oblivione. SpaceStation had fully disengaged from that fight after, and here comes Hardy once more. Nice little landing. Crispy able to very quickly get away under speed boost, but SpaceStation want to chase. And they want to make use of that Kitsune rush that they did throw down. That's miles away at this point, though, as the bot will be brought back into the fray.
It seems what they're looking for here, SpaceStation, is like when Chase gets like a speed boost and, you know, activates Nemesis form and wants to go, they back out. And then after that, the Ramatra has nothing and just a bad spot, as that's going to be a whole spawn. Looks like Connect's probably like a fade there, able, or a recall potentially on who is stuck on, able to get out.
Yeah, still have to blow through those defensive cooldowns before you can guarantee a kill with that pulse. The main topics of discussion here is, yeah, there's just so much of that survivability on so many of these heroes. You cannot guarantee anything, even if it's an ultimate. Shockwave down again, first pick, 3 fights in a row. Not what Ex Oblivione are looking for. And again, Crispy has to go for a 4-player sound barrier. SpaceStation are more than happy to look on from the periphery. Now they'll use their own, because they see this Coalescence also being committed to the fight. They're licking their lips. There's a big opportunity here to swing momentum in their favor, but the Annihilation might be too much for Backbone to fight through. They're trying to deny that high ground from Chase, and SpaceStation, with the Annihilation in play, are fortunate to still have 4 players standing.
Yes, there hasn't really been much like bot progress on either side here, you know, in the kind of like 2 or 3 minutes or so that we've been playing, as Chase goes in. Tries to make a play here. It's going to open up some more space here for Ex Oblivione, as they're going to take the lead, and now it's going to be a Kitsune rush. You need to disengage from this, but look at how fast they get in, and all it is they just need to find one. They find Canal and Crispy here early, and now SpaceStation will get control again.
I think that previous fight, in which SpaceStation find the first pick on Shockwave, and then there's 2 support ultimates from EXO used. I mean, more than anything, it just showed the strength of Ramatra there. They're short-handed in that fight. Ramatra hits Q and runs at them, and that's all she wrote. So SpaceStation do well here. They spin a couple of ultimates to get momentum back, and they are behind by about 10 meters. So this next fight, this is the important one here. They're only really going to be contending with an overclock from Ex Oblivione, but they themselves don't have a whole lot to work with.
No, I mean,
Okay, cool.
Lose Cloud. I mean, that's just Hariko damage at range, right? Headshot, just, a little bit of damage on the Cloud. Now look at the position that Hadi's taking, right? Like, where is, that's probably where Shockwave would love to get up into and end up using that overclock, right? From that high ground window. But you have a Reaper in your face here, the Winston up on that high ground as he's going to use that overclock come out. But look at this, got no real targets.
No, I mean, Shockwave just turning up forced the speed boost. Rather, a Backbone forced the speed boost for Chase and Co just to run out. SpaceStation probably have to be satisfied with this because during that fight, they gained about 20 meters of progress. I mean, they force out the overclock. I don't know if it's really the fight SpaceStation were looking for. I don't know if Backbone expected them to just go nuts at him when he turned up there to start pressuring.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see Ex Oblivione get pretty aggressive here, right? Annihilation, Sound Barrier, Coalescence. Like, you can use some of these ultimates together to get the Ramatra in position, right, to make a play. And now you're up here on the high ground. Maybe they're just trying to like bait a dive in and then end up popping some of these.
Just means the SpaceStation have to give up some progress though if they don't want to challenge right now. If they're gonna jockey, the bot will move for some of this.
Yeah. But I think SpaceStation's totally fine with like just kind of like playing this neutral game, right? Like, it's allowed Hadi now build up a primal. Landon's gonna get the Kitsune rush. Like, you had a little bit of a window and of an advantage there for Ex Oblivione.
Nice from Crispy. He denies Hadi that high ground, forces Hadi to drop, and then he jumps up and gets caught by Shockwave. Sound barrier here. More than happy to see that used. I mean, you have such a huge window and opening with this ultimate advantage. And again, it is the Coalescence and Sound Barrier used together. This might yield a checkpoint for Ex Oblivione though. Not only will they catch up, but checkpoint here would be massive.
Yeah, it's gonna. I mean, the Shockwave connecting with like the railgun shot on Hadi before he's able to actually get that primal off and taking him out is massive, right? You lose that front line there for SpaceStation Gaming and everything kind of crumbles. Here's gonna be the Kitsune rush. You have to disengage from this. Oh, Space just trying to back up. Oh, that's a huge pick. Now you can go maybe after this.
We really thought SpaceStation would just start in the gameplay loop once again. Kitsune rush and win a fight, try and take the high ground and play neutral. But Dave lost Funny Astro. That is massive. And now they're forced into an awkward position. They'll take the high ground as 4. But they're in no position to contest this car. This is free push for Ex Oblivione off that one Lucio elimination. Oh, I love it.
Oh, I mean, how to even keep him alive, right? I mean, there's absolutely no shot there where it's going to be the annihilation here popped here from Chase. Maybe a little bit, later than expected is not going to be able to get any value with that. So gonna have to back up here now, but maybe they feel like they got the job done, right? You get that checkpoint, right? 3 minutes 15 on the clock. SpaceStation's close as well. Get some extra progress around the corner, but you get a fight win here. You get the bot back towards mid-map. You're about like 2:15 on the clock. You're in a pretty decent spot if you're Ex Oblivione.
Keep an eye on Hadi. He's actually predicting where Shockwave is going to power slide to. So he is not jumping directly on the Sojourn, but is standing about where he thinks the Sojourn will turn up if she were to use that cooldown. Shockwave, speaking of cooldowns, this is a big one. The overclock now being employed as Backbone gets caught out by Cloud. The Coalescence for Canale. This time, only one support ultimate used in that 5 for Rexo. They can keep the barrier heading into the next. And SpaceStation is struggling to actually build some ultimates. They've had 2 very one-sided fights to deal with.
This is huge, though. Even if Ex Oblivione just doesn't even get any more progress on the barrier, just getting the barrier back into the SpaceStation side of the map is massive for Ex Oblivione. It's a Kitsune rush. They need to get out of this. They've done a better job out of this lately, and that's going to be that sound barrier. It's going to connect with 4.
Nice by Shockwave. Instead of sliding off the bridge, he just jumps down, knowing he'll have to hold onto that cooldown for later. And as Hadi comes calling, he slides right away back to the rest of his team. Really trying to play around.
Hard advantage here.
Yes. But do they, I mean, what are they waiting on here? Maybe they get Hadi in position, have some semblance of high ground. It's got to be now, right? Here's the dive. Fade forced immediately. Psycho low doesn't get the sound barrier because he was in the recall animation. But the rest of SpaceStation do have something to be going on with. Nice from Hadi. Cheeky little right click there. You see he purposely goes overhead of the Ramatra and does not want to fight Chase.
Yeah, having that beat later there for SpaceStation Gaming was just so impactful. Able to use that to be aggressive. See if they can. Doesn't look like they're going to be able to get kind of like the 7 meters they need off of this, and time is dwindling here as SpaceStation Gaming. You end up using that ultimate. You get back into a position to win a next fight. And this is the issue with push, right? Is you're kind of like forced to do this constantly.
Absolutely. Yeah, we've just lost our feed briefly here, which is not the best timing we could ask for. I
Most
think
likely there's something happening right now. There's like a fight going on. We're probably at minute
like a
30.
fight in the game, or are people actually like throwing
a minute 30. No, there's a fight in the game.
Oh, I see.
You know,
it's like the obs feed going down. Like someone's
Shockwave is like potentially getting near a railgun at this point.
Actually, no, the fight is just literally being decided by Chase hitting Q.
And we'll see what happens.
Just gonna hit Q.
Yeah, he could do that. That's a possibility.
So the story so far though is that, I mean, Space Station Gaming behind by about 7 meters there, and they have a distinct ultimate disadvantage going to that next fight. They have the high ground, which is all they can really leverage here. But every time they try and dive on that Ramatra with Annihilation, they get absolutely cooked. So I do fear for them over the coming couple of minutes remaining in Esperanca.
Yeah, and they use that sound barrier and they get aggressive behind it and they get the one kill and they get the bot moving, but they don't get like they're not able to push even deeper and get some of that follow up and like get the barrier moving again. They just kind of get stuck.
We're going to work on getting that game feed back for you folks. In the meantime, put your feet up. We'll be right back after this.
Enemy in sight.
Our victory is at hand. Ashes to ashes. Die, die, die.
Let's get you back out there. Maintaining connection.
I'm getting readings of cosmic disturbance in these ruins. Moira, prioritize our people, not your cosmic experiments. That's an order.
Accept my gifts, and all will be yours. Your ally has descended into darkness.
Our group energy is interesting. Very interesting.
Check this out.
Methinks a Cupid I shall play. What are you looking at?
Keep moving forward.
Best of luck to you all.
Let's jam.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking with us through a minor tech hiccup there. Had a power failure on the OBS side. And in the meantime, Ex Oblivione were able to claim victory there on Esperanca. A result that we were definitely sort of reading in the tea leaves, Matt, I think, based on the way the game was going. We had the option, of course, I think, to go back and drag out a replay code and observe it, but we really don't want to delay the players. As, you know, it's not their issue that we had a power failure. So we are going to continue on with the series.
Yeah, and look, in the position that they were in at the time, you could kind of see that potentially happening, right? Time dwindling down, Annihilation on the other side. They used that sound barrier early, Space Station. They weren't able to kind of, no, they got the early kill, they got the bot moving, but not past that like nasty choke that they had to go through. So you can see Ex Oblivione holding on there. And I know, as we expected, this match has kind of delivered, right? We expected these two teams, number 3 and number 4, and I know number 4 and number 5, I believe, in EMEA, living up to the hype.
Absolutely. Spark are going to be brought in here now as we head to Suravasa for our next map. Psycho headed to the bench. And for SpaceStation Gaming, we probably need to start asking the question, just how much more does this Winston-based composition have in it, Matt? Because it's definitely a different style of play. I mean, the composition isn't hugely different, but that Winston makes a big difference in how you approach so many of these fights. And also, Ramatra has Annihilation. That's pretty good. Seems like it was very difficult for SpaceStation.
I don't think there's any reason for them to swap. Like, I don't think it's been...
Is losing not a reason to swap? You are losing the series.
Yeah, but I don't think it's really been...
Bob, do something.
What would you like to see them do then?
You are SpaceStation Gaming, right? You are legends. You can't be losing this game. You've got to dig a little bit deeper. You got to find... I mean, so if you think they just keep doing the same thing, that...
I think it's more like some of the fights, like situationally, they could play a little bit different rather than like it's a compositional issue potentially. Now I could be totally wrong, right? We'll find out here on Suravasa, but that's at least what I am kind of like seeing in, you know, what I think. I don't think it's something where, you know, it's they're constantly getting in fights that they can't win, right? They're coming out on top in a lot of these fights. It's just some of the fights that situationally where the other team has like the annihilation, where they're fighting, right? Kind of like all plays into it.
I just don't think they're making it any easier for themselves.
That I could get on board with, yeah.
Yeah. I do feel like even just like as an external, as a
like there could be an easier path for them to play, I think. Yeah.
But again, preference reigns supreme at this level of Overwatch. SpaceStation want to stay with that Winston-based composition, doubling down here on this. Again, it's worth bearing in mind that the loser of this game still very much has the opportunity to make it to the main event. The 2 top teams from each group will advance here. And SpaceStation, well, it wouldn't surprise me if they were in one of those spots in the end. Head over to this center part of the map here, and again, we'll have our long-range trading as it won't be Sparker coming in at all, actually. Shockwave's still in the lineup. So Spark on the other side. Spark on the Tracer, excuse me. This means Backbone, yeah, we have a Tracer Reaper set up.
Yeah, so that's what they've been running though, right? Like we've seen Psycho actually in playing the Tracer exclusively. So Could be for something later, potentially, here on Flashpoint, but Shockwave just trying to build up some charge and look for a kill here. It's Ex Oblivione getting at the point first. I think it's just so dangerous to just dive this Sojourn, right? Like, especially it makes it dangerous on Hadi. Like, here's that bubble, right? It's gonna pop, and he has to be out because just a railgun shot right there connects on the land and gets him low. But as that's going on, Funny Astro takes out Cloud.
I will say, though, that Hadi creates enough spacing for a pick to come down. Sparker and Backbone able to sort of fill that space behind the Winston as Hadi jumps in and throws the bubble down, and that's pretty important when your opponents are playing around a choke. You get to filter out here.
The biggest thing is backing the Ramatra up. Like, if the Ramatra, you see where Chase is, like right there, like if he can just kind of hold serve on that point, like, and he just does not have to turn and worry really at all, like that's what allowed them to take the point in the first place. This would be a Coalescence answered with a Kitsune rush, so don't exactly want to push into the Reaper with a rush. You're going to have to back out a little bit, but it's really kind of controlling the area of play for this Ramatra.
Yeah, so much hinged on sort of this point sort of control at the moment, Matt. They didn't want to push into the Coalescence either, so the Kitsune Rush was sort of maybe just for the haste buff on some of that healing. Eventually, though, as both those ultimates expire, Hardy's able to find Shockwave. So diving that Sojourn, as risky as it is, it must happen. It's a key part of the win condition here for Space Station. Funny Astro is in position for a sound barrier. He is, and it comes just late enough. And Space Station are hyper durable at present, but there's still the issue of the Annihilation. Chase waits a little bit on this. The bubble maybe breaks it up to some degree, and Hardy is able to get rid of that Ramatra. That's huge.
He was really low at the start of that. Crispy actually ends up using the sound barrier just to he was extremely low, gets it off in time, as it looks like that Space Station just a few kills away here from finishing off this point. But yeah, it looks like Chase is a bit low before popping that Annihilation, ends up using it anyway. Power Block just trying to stay alive on the point. Ends up falling as Space Station will take the first point here on Suravasa.
That's huge. I mean, Chase going for that Annihilation. Normally you see teams that want to pair it up with a sound barrier, right? Just to make it basically impossible to kill the Ramatra as he runs all over you. But Crispy had to use his first in that fight.
He used it early on, right? He's very low in terms of HP. You have these other two ultimates that are kind of lining up constantly, right? Like with Canale's Coalescence, and then Landon here with that Kitsune Rush is they force out Shockwave. I mean, look at this. I mean, the Shockwave has no sightline whatsoever, right? They get two players in his face, force him all the way around the corner, and then you just need to find one kill on the opposite side.
This is what we're talking about with making space, right? Shockwave is pushed back into a position where he can't even see the fight. He can't even see Backbone death bossing in the rest of his team. Shockwave knows it's up to him to stay out of range of the Winston, but when Hardy puts you in a position where you have to choose between being a part of the fight and staying alive, that's a lose-lose.
Yeah, now Space Station with a huge advantage, right? They take point one. You have the kickoff here on point number two. The flashpoints, they tick up so fast. And, you have a beat advantage. You have Kitsune Rush. This point here is theirs to take.
Canale here just trying to keep everyone topped up. We're verging on another engagement here for Ex Oblivione with a Coalescence in hand for Canale. Backbone will take some poke damage. Doesn't worry about Wraith walking here because there's a sound barrier in play. Funny Astro built that first this time around. And my goodness, nothing Crispy could do. He is close to a beat of his own. But a fight like that basically makes it impossible for Ex Oblivione to have a real chance of contesting. They lose Cole, they lose Overclock, and they're going to find a way in the next 5 to 10 seconds.
Yeah, and this is where you would consider, I was just going to say, switching off of the Sojourn, right? You're getting no value out of it. You're just getting pushed out of the side. You're basically taking these fights a player down for your team. So look at this. Hadi plays up close. Primal Rage here used, just knocking players back. As this Suravasa map may be pretty quick, as it looks like Space Station, one player just kind of contesting as Chase will get onto the point here. Well, that actually doesn't make it. So it will fall as Space Station goes up 2-0 already.
How does the switch now from Shockwave from Sojourn to Reaper change the plan for Hardy? Who does he beeline for now?
He just needs to play a little bit more cautious, a lot like how we saw really early on in this series, right? It's kind of like we're going back to what the series kicked off on Lijiang Tower. Just needs to be a little bit more cautious. They need to kind of track where Shockwave is at all times.
Backbone forced away here. Annihilation used by Chase in between points, no less. Ex Oblivione really hoping to get to that next flashpoint and get a good start. But Chase is low. Nemesis form, of course, is going to give him some of that much needed armor. Funny Astro trying to escape here. Oh, the pulse is good, but not enough. Chase healed up. And able to move over towards the point, and eventually Funny Astro is chased down. So Ex Oblivione's investment of the annihilation here, midway between points, well, it pays off.
Oh, I mean, they were desperate for a fight win. I mean, you absolutely needed one where SpaceStation's kind of been dominating really outside of maybe the first point of the entire game. I know where the first fight kicks off and Ex Oblivione ends up winning, where you needed a fight win in the worst way. You needed to stabilize, get control of a point. Now maybe Ex Oblivione can chain some together.
Can't tell if Crispy's trying to be ironic with that skin selection there. If you see it, you know. But Backbone notes Cloud here will probably keep this flank angle under the thumb for the most part. Backbone at some point is going to have to move up regardless. Cloud trying to actually put pressure down on the Reaper instead of just warding him away. That's because Chase and Co are pushing up. Crispy again. This is great sound barrier timing. It's going to guarantee a fight win. And it's the question of whether you needed Coalescence there with that first pick already coming up.
Yeah, I mean, you could even say, after you get rid of Funny Astro, right? They have no speed, no sound barrier, right? Like, do you even need the, some of your ultimates?
Kill the point, basically.
Yeah. But do you have an opportunity here for SpaceStation to attack this? Like, somebody's going to have to get a touch.
Oh, this positioning is pretty good for the Death Blossom. They tried to knock Backbone around as much as they could. Canale forced to fade away with only a sliver of health left. And Ex Oblivione leave just enough of a window for SpaceStation to flip the point.
And they could be in trouble here, right? You do get up to 99, but you're not close to either your support ults. You don't have the Death Blossom. You end up using it here. Kitsune Rush is massive, especially, on the point with the Reaper. And it doesn't even take into account, like, Sparker, right? Like, could be playing on, like, an off angle. Maybe you get a Pulse Bomb early on. That just kind of ends a fight before it even begins.
Oh, Backbone knows about where Cloud's going to be after the recall.
It's a really early recall.
An extra blink also spent there. Good pressure from Backbone. He and Cloud are quite often going 1-for-1. Especially as they both try and find ways to flank safely. Crispy, hardly able to catch him in midair there. That's going to be a problem with how far Ex Oblivione are from the point. They're also a long way from safety. Hardy, though, doesn't choose to exploit the lack of Lucio and lack of mobility. He will let Ex Oblivione stew.
And they're going to be at 90% on the point. I mean, SpaceStation Gaming may decide, hey, we want to go aggressive with this Kitsune Rush, get in the mix, and that's what they decide to do.
Annihilation, though, is an option here for Chase. He pops it straight away here. SpaceStation on the back foot. They don't have a sound barrier to protect them against this, and Canale has the Coalescence. But the ultimates have expired. Both the Annihilation and the Coalescence are done here. Ex Oblivione do move over towards the point, but they don't have those ultimates in play right now. SpaceStation hoping to build some of their own here. We're getting awfully close for Crispy. The sound barrier would be big. Can they track this? Can SpaceStation focus that Lucio down? It looks like they're struggling to wrap at the moment. There's a pulse bomb here for Sparker. Throws it into the doorway. No connection though. It looks like Crispy's able to avoid it and get that sound barrier down. Funny Astro's too far away from his own ultimate to make use of it in this fight. And Ex Oblivione should have this. Hardy jumping off the point here. Sparker has to rotate in, but there's no healing for the Winston of SpaceStation. This one will get dragged out a little bit, but Ex Oblivione are going to be able to stay alive on Suravasa.
Yes, they did a really nice job actually fighting through that Kitsune Rush. A lot of times we see them disengage, but that time Chase pops the Annihilation, uses, the power block, gets some extra healing, and then Crispy with that sound barrier at the end. That's what ends up putting them over the line, over the top there to take that point. So Oblivione still very much in this, as SpaceStation Gaming will come into this next fight with sound barrier and Death Blossom. Potentially look for that combo to get this point first.
Decent positioning here for SpaceStation. They're on residence first. Backbone here, that's pretty telegraphed. The Death Blossom though, still effective. Shockwave not really far to go, but a Coalescence from Canale keeps the Reaper standing. They're able to stave off that Reaper ultimate, but there are more to come here for SpaceStation. Up the stairs they go, and Shockwave doesn't really know whether to go backwards or forwards. It's going to be Hardy that catches him out in the end. Another Annihilation. It's scary, but with the Primal Rage basically turning Chase into an onlooker in this fight. That ultimate will be negated entirely, and SpaceStation will have the point. They spent a lot for it, including that Kitsune Rush at the end.
Yeah, look at this. I'm just gonna stagger.
He's crowd surf.
Try and stagger Chase. Oh, nice right click there from Hottie, like a jump and a flick, is looking for more. Just trying to see if they can get one now. Yeah, now we're gonna back out. So SpaceStation, no, that is a Death Blossom from both teams at the same time. Sound barrier from Funny Astro. ends up keeping everybody alive on the space station side of things. For Ex Oblivione, they have the coalescence rolling there.
Pulse bombs will headline this next engagement. Both Lucios likely will have those sound barriers online, like you mentioned. Straight away, though, SpaceStation want to give up a little bit of ground here. Hoping to keep Funny Astro safe in the meantime. Crispy already has the beat online. Ooh, Sparker has to recall here and he's in trouble. He comes out at half HP, but elsewhere Hardy's able to find Shockwave. The Reaper is down. That's pretty big. 86% and counting for SpaceStation to lock up the map and even the series. Take us to a decider. Funny Astro was hoping to try and interrupt Crispy there, but the beat comes down regardless, and the coalescence will follow from Canale here. Backbone trying to find a way in, but he's stuck at the front door, and it is going to be Chase staving him off, being kept alive here despite the DPS passive effective on this Ramatra. Eventually he'll be brought down. The consistent damage of Reaper, a little bit too much to deal with, and SpaceStation claims Suravasa and take us to a decider.
I mean, even if you had sound barrier like layered on top of Chase there, like you're not surviving the Reaper shotguns inside of the Kitsune Rush. Like it is just so much damage being pumped out onto, you know, larger HP targets, you know, specifically hunting down tanks, that nothing you could do there for Ex Oblivione is hey, we no more 3 Overwatch, right? We actually get a 5 mapper. I know you were worried yesterday we were just gonna get a 3 O's for eternity, but you know, now this one's a good one.
I mean, we at the end of the show yesterday, we said we thoroughly expected this Group B winners match to be one of the closest here. A couple of these groups maybe look a little bit more cut and dry. This one, obviously, with SpaceStation and Ex Oblivione in there, we knew it was going to deliver. Maybe we didn't know exactly in what fashion it would deliver. Great to see Suravasa where that Winston comp really pays off, considering how much is stacked against it, especially, you know, coalescence and that sound barrier combined are very frightening, and it feels very safe for the team with the Moira Lucio comp just to let those ones go, especially with how quickly you can get them back.
Yeah, looking forward to Rialto, I wonder if we see substitutions for Sojourn play here. You know, I think you can play the Reaper, but there's like lots of like longer sight lines that like you can probably get some really good value out of the Sojourn. Also, it's not as like if you're gonna dive the Sojourn, like there's so much area to cross that it's not as easy as like how we just saw Hadi like basically dive into one choke and then just force Shockwave like basically to the other side of like 3 walls, right, for him to even see anybody. It's not as easy on Rialto, especially like in that first point area where you actually see a decent amount of holds, right? So I wonder if we're gonna see any types of subs or switches or whatnot to maybe get like a Sojourn out on the field.
Now, in the past, in different metas, teams have favored like more poke-based compositions quite often, or even tried to make use of Diva on defense here to really transition between the high and low ground pretty quickly. I think you're right. Like we've also seen a lot of Winston play on this map from Hardy specifically, especially in like his early tenure with that London Spitfire team. He had like a whole year where he basically just played Winston and the whole time, right? And it was pretty public that, you know, he didn't feel as comfortable on that hero and spent the entire season grinding. It's actually where like many of his accolades on work ethic originate from, was that year in particular, which was a difficult one for the Spitfire in terms of how competitive the league was. So
yeah, but I also think like he's turned himself into like a much better overall tank at this point, right? Like you know, just kind of grinding out the Winston, playing on through it. Like maybe like the Diva isn't exactly like kind of like in his wheelhouse, so to speak. But like, you know, if you can play Winston, you know, I mean, Tracer, Winston, Lucio. Like I feel like I've always been somewhere around, right? Like if you could be a pro player, and only be good at like 3 heroes. Like if you were like, I mean, obviously there's nobody who plays across all 3 roles, right? But if you're a fantastic Winston player, Lucio player, or Tracer player, there's going to be a spot for you on a pro team all of the time. Like, I mean, look at Fearless, right?
They all have the same thing in common. They all have mobility. I think that is really what we see our top players trend to in almost every situation, in almost every metagame, right? That mobility is absolutely crucial. And even like Primal Rage and Pulse Bomb aren't like the most game-breaking ultimates, right? That's not why these heroes are picked up. Stick around, everybody. We've got more to come here in our decider map of Rialto just around the corner. Will it be SpaceStation Gaming advancing from this group straight to the main event, or will Ex Oblivione have their just desserts? We'll find out after this.
Our victory is at hand. Ashes to ashes. Die, die, die.
Let's get to that out there. Maintaining connection.
I'm getting readings of cosmic disturbance in these ruins. Moira, prioritize our people, not your cosmic experiments. That's an order.
Accept my gifts, and all will be yours. Your ally has descended into darkness.
Our group energy is interesting. Very interesting.
Check this out.
Methinks a Cupid I shall play. What are you looking at?
Keep moving forward.
Best of luck to you all.
Welcome back, everybody, to what will be the decider map in this Group D winners game. Thanks for sticking with us so far. And again, we are pretty excited to have such a close match here. Rialto will be the pick for our fifth and final map, with Circuit Royal and Shambali Monastery being banned away. Interesting, Shambali to be banned away. Obviously, a pretty good Ramatra map in general, but it's long, it's arduous, it's treacherous. And Rialto presents some of these, as you mentioned before the break, Matt, longer sightlines, options again to sort of rotate some of those hit scan DPS in, and maybe make it a little harder for someone like Hardy on Winston to cross these wide gaps before he can engage.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like we have any subs on either side. I think both teams just taking some time in between, game 4 and game 5 here about to start, kind of get with their coaches, figure out what they want to do, if they want to make any kind of adjustments to how they're playing these compositions. Probably not going to change the compositions all that much. And honestly, not really surprised on the ban. Like, I think, Circuit Royale, just a really rough map to kind of like play, aggressively on, especially like diving just basically face first into Ramatra and whatnot. And then Shambali, I think teams would rather prefer something that they're a little bit more comfortable with, they probably played way more of with a map like Rialto.
Familiar to many, this map, and also the site of some of the most incredible and ridiculous moments in Overwatch history. A fitting place to end the series with only one of these teams advancing directly to the main event. But like we sort of discussed earlier on, whichever team doesn't win will be unleashed mercilessly upon the rest of this Group D and likely will be able to advance themselves. We don't see any of that sort of longer range hit scan rotated in at all so far. SpaceStation want to stick to their guns here. With Sparker in on the Tracer, they want to pair him with that Reaper and go with the old faithful.
Yeah, so Ex Oblivione on offense here first. I thought you could see them potentially run like a little bit more long range stuff, but yeah, as you mentioned, I think both teams just probably pretty comfortable with what they got going on right now.
Always worth a peek here with the Widow for Shockwave, and also you can see how it's forced SpaceStation off that line entirely. That means that you can push the card up for free SpaceStation don't really want to contest with that for the time being. Now they've set Hardy up though behind. This is one of the issues when you're going up against a defensive dive comp. It's pretty hard to contest Hardy from positions like this. He can sort of wrap around, sort of drop down on his leisure. So Ex Oblivione want to take the fight to SpaceStation. They're going to move out to the high ground and Backbone very quickly and wrap around this corner here. Likely he is discovered. It's a common location to play around. But Ex Oblivione, in chasing him down, would expose themselves to the low ground pressure. They've got to be careful. They will be forced now, though, to play on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, the main difference really the entire series has been like the Moira versus the Karika, where I know like Cussa really loves the Moira in the mix. Like I think Moira potentially like, easy damage, good healing, right? Coalescence is a pretty free-flowing ultimate, kind of like just throw it out there, you're gonna get some type of value out of it. I think the Rush does provide a lot to like that Reaper and some of the damage if you want to get aggressive though.
Hardy has not found a way to be involved in these fights
really low.
Yeah, I mean, and here comes a Coalescence. They build that in that fight. Hardy finally touches down and gets rid of Crispy. This is great. They're going to make use of that Kitsune Rush here, and Sparker found such a crucial Pulse Bomb connection there on Shockwave. Now Hardy can play that much more aggressively, or so he thought, until Cloud found a pulse of his own. Funny Astro still a little ways off that sound barrier, but he's ahead in the race in general. Can Backbone stall this out for long enough? Is it worth investing? Probably not at this stage. Funny Astro, he's in the drink.
Yeah, I mean... Dude, we talk about how Hardy has created so much space, right? Chase on the bridge there did that as well. They pushed Sparker out. Funny Astro got really low. So see if Hardy can kind of keep this contested here. Primal Rage, you're going to have Funny Astro coming up back off the spawn with Beat.
How quick can he be? Just quick enough, but Hardy was taking far too much damage there with the Death Blossom of Shockwave in play. Alana desperately trying to attend to Backbone. Just as the Death Blossom comes out from him, he's knocked away from the fight. Perfect response here from Ex Oblivione. And Annihilation always seems to be the fight decider when it comes up. This case, no exception. Exo with 4 minutes to spend, get through the first checkpoint.
So that is a big first checkpoint there for Ex Oblivione, right? You kind of get like momentum on your side here, picking offense first. Is we talk about how you just kind of throw the Coalescence out there. Canal used it a little bit ago, already back at 70%. The healing output of Moira is so fast, you're going to get that back right up in this fight. Look at this, I love this position from Shockwave, trying to control the high ground. It looks like he got booped off if he's going to make it around down to the backside.
Awkward.
Yeah, not able to get out.
Couldn't TP back. He was sort of knocked off before the Wraith Walk came in. So he just hung suspended like a shade. Would have had to walk back on the low ground itself. And again, Hardy gets to change gears, right? With the Reaper off the table, he can really start to put pressure down on that Ramatra, have that extra degree of confidence in pushing past the front line.
Now you see just the spawn chase here. Sparker just trying to maybe get rid of Shockwave, but he's going to be able to make it out with his life. Where, yeah, that time Shockwave, I like the position, trying to control that high ground, but when he gets knocked down, has to use Wraith form really early, and they track him down, they hunt him down. He's not going to be able to make it out with his life.
I mean, this is a map where Funny Astro's had famous moments on that Lucio.
Yeah.
Right now, he's doing a great job denying those spots from Reapers and the like. Backbone wants this, he's hungry. Oh my goodness, he wants it. Pushing now past almost to the end of that Kitsune Rush. He opts to back away eventually. Hardy was lost. Crispy able to find him there, not great. Shockwave though was low. Spark, a great job. He comes in from behind Ex Oblivione and sees the Reaper too low to be healed quickly enough. But can he get away? That's a yes.
Yes, I mean, that fight is kicked off. Backbone's in a really nice spot, like kind of hiding, like right by the bridge. Just kind of sitting on one of the little boats down there. Comes around the corner, puts some big damage down on Chase, and then they just drop down from the high ground with the Kitsune Rush. And there's nothing they can do to kind of keep players alive. For a second, I thought we were going to see a Baptiste with this. I was going to be like, what?
That would be whack.
Yeah, that would just be, what is going on here? But no, it's going to be the Moira. In this kind of composition, you're either playing the Kariko or the Moira.
That was quick from Sparker. Crispy didn't know what hit him. Pulse Bomb in the hands now. For your Space Station Tracer and the Death Blossom here should be enough to deal with Chase. Canale looked like an incidental elimination there for Backbone. He got what he really wanted. And that's a couple of fights that Space Station have strung together. Ex Oblivione have gone from 4 minutes out of that first checkpoint now down to a mere 90 seconds.
Yeah, this bridge is really difficult to get across. Even when like they're not playing like a hit scan, like a 76 or anything out there, like you can still just, there's so much chip damage you take crossing the bridge, and then also you can just dictate the fights, right? From dropping down from the high ground, doing all different types of things. See Chase, I mean, it's really low even just trying to make it across.
Crispy is not getting away with this one scot-free. He's chased quite far by Hardy. Speaking of which, the aforementioned has Annihilation available, but it won't help you when you're sleeping with the fishies. And if I know anything about those canals, you want a long shower after that one.
Man, it's I mean, it's really tough for Ex Oblivione. I mean, what do you do, right? Like you're not gonna like want to like speed across and get like sound barrier to get across this bridge, right? But you see Chase just getting poked down from every which direction as soon as he gets across. So they get a recall out of Sparker there. They're just trying to force that Tracer back. It looks like they're still trying to wrap this high ground.
Hardy forced a Wraith Walk out of Shockwave there to just rejoin the rest of his team. Landon a Swift Step available, so never in true danger in times like this. Pulse drop there at the top of the stairwell, no connection to the high ground. Go Ex Oblivione here, Cloud with one of his own, a bomb to dispense. And then Annihilation is still up here for Chase, but there's a long way to the next checkpoint here, and Ex Oblivione have got to break Space Station wide open, but they can hardly get to grips with them right now. Another Wraith Walk forced for Shockwave, and we have a layering of support ultimates here. Space Station, no, this will be a good time to disengage, especially from that Annihilation. They can't really get as far away as they'd like, though. Backbone, yep, no escape for him. Bubble drop down. Chase, though, really problematic with that Ramatra ultimate active. Cloud at least comes out as a trade here. There might be something in this for Space Station. They're waiting for Backbone to ideally have returned to the fray.
Yeah, they have some time. They're really just playing like, don't give up the second checkpoint here. Get Backbone back in the mix. If you get a pick, you're going to get a pulse bomb here out of this. Oh, that's
a pulse, surely.
Yeah.
No escape.
Great form comes out, and there's nothing you could do there.
Potentially devastating there as Backbone's forced into his own Wraith Walk, but has that Depth Blossom in a couple moments. Not again. Chase in trouble. Once more being knocked towards the docks here. Cloud on the cart. The Pulse Bomb stuck to the outside of the shield, though. Hardy eventually cleans up Chase with that Primal. And that's a pretty darn good defensive effort from this Winston-based comp of Space Station.
I mean, look, it's going to be difficult for anybody to cross that bridge, right? With the other team in a defensive kind of position up on that high ground, and it's really where their push got stalled out. No, it was maybe Hardy getting back and using Primal and extending the first point thing for a little bit once, but really it was mostly just that defense there that was up on the high ground. That's where Space Station really kind of took advantage and looked awesome. Otherwise, Ex Oblivione played a pretty good first half.
We spent a lot of time talking about how this map might be tricky for the Winston comp to attack on. Might be, right, in terms of crossing these wide expanses. We didn't really touch on how good the high ground was for defenders and how much flexibility it would give Hardy to not have to spend much time on the ground facing down this Ramatra. And this is a
Widowmaker play.
It's not a huge shock to me, no pun intended, as Shockwave, obviously known for his Widow, really got himself on the map like that, and we are talking about a large number of wide expanses here. You gotta be under a lot of pressure.
Yes, it is definitely a way more feast or famine than like playing a Sojourn, right? Like you're gonna, yes. We'll see if he's able to make it work. I mean, Shockwave, a tremendous hit scan player, really across all the hit scan heroes. So
we are trading that consistency for high impact. Maybe a little bit of variance though in the mix. Shockwave needs to be hitting these shots to really justify this pick in general, because even Sojourn will be able to throw down disruptor shots and the like, but these sightlines are being denied from the Widow.
And with the way that things have gone so far in this series, that if he doesn't get value out of it, like you imagine the rest of the team just gets rolled, right?
Yep, they will absolutely they'll get dumped on.
He's going to have to get value.
Because he draws a lot of resources alongside him as well. It's not just Shockwave. It's Shockwave that has to be followed by Crispy constantly into the abyss, apparently. Yeah, it's bad.
I like this.
Get off it. Get off it.
Now, you see the positions that he was forced into playing. Those are not the positions that Widowmaker wants to be in.
I think taking that risk here has lost you the series, potentially. It's
pretty early.
Yeah,
like
with how little you've been able to push on that second phase, it's pretty scary.
Yeah, but right here, the Widow might be good. You get Hardy right here with the Widow, like trying to like even get this first point to get across the bridge. Like This is where the Widow could actually be, pretty awesome.
I mean, how important is it that Space Station did not get the checkpoint from that fight? Now they stack it out.
They got to keep chasing alive. It's quite low, but this is where even better sight lanes are for Shockwave, right? Like, look at where he can play right there. Like, who's fighting him? It's really barely on Sparker, but he's gonna cross this whole bridge area.
You can LOS the Widow to a decent degree with the car. It's up to Ex Oblivione to force the Space Station defenders sort of out to the sides of this car. You see the shots ringing in overhead here. Sparker has to use a lot of blinks and fairness to stay out of that line of sight, and it will dissuade you from pushing past the car as the attack is.
And you're just burning clock here, right? Like, the longer, more cautious they have to play, you're just burning some clock as Hottie takes some shots on the way in.
It's working, Matt. Feels like the Widow is really working now. Backbone doing absolutely zero damage to the Revantra, even inside Kitsune Rush. That's frustrating here. Look how low EXO are, though. They are low. Still, though, they're hanging on. Here's the infra sight from the Widowmaker. Backbone, well, you don't really need X-ray vision to know where he's playing. Right out in the open. And this, like, again, this, we don't see the damage necessarily of the Widow unless we're on that POV. But my God, the threat she generates means Space Station have to play from behind the car, which is awful with their comp.
Right, yeah, it's more of like the threat, right? Like, Shockwave puts down some damage, big shots onto like a Hottie turning a corner, right? Some damage on the Backbone to kick off a fight, right? Like, the Widow damage is so substantial that it does make an impact, and like you just need like one or two of those shots, right, to turn a fight in your team's favors. Well, let's see, they try and go high ground here. Yeah, they have to go deep on this. Oh, they get crispy.
Yeah, but they have to trade that instantly. Okay, immediately Shockwave battered. Hardy is able to identify the location of the Widow and deal with him. There's still a lot of Ex Oblivione to handle, though. Hardy, this is a bit scary. It should be good here, Matt. Getting rid of Canale. They're even going to spend a sound barrier here. So they get past their first problem. Conundrum solved. 3 minutes 12 on the clock here to get basically towards the next checkpoint. Shockwave switching off the Widow now as his time is done, but they burn a decent amount of clock here, and you have to admit the Widow plays a big part in that.
Yeah, I think if you're Space Station now, you need to get up here on this high ground and control it. Shockwave on the offensive side for Ex Oblivione got knocked off, and then after that, they were not able to control that high ground, and you kind of saw what happened on their offense. But actually looks like they're okay giving it up for now. Maybe you just kind of have Hottie jump up there, like poke a little bit.
Sparker hoping for an easy pulse bomb. Again, watching the cooldown usage of Shockwave very closely. Okay, Shockwave TP's up. Hottie was already waiting for him there. Trying to get away is Funny Astro, but Chase grabs him by the ankle, drags him back down to his level. Hard though, decent trade. Pretty nice to get rid of the Tracer at this point of the fight here. Kitsune Rush means that Chase can't feel confident even with that Annihilation in play. Canale, though, might remediate that situation. Yes, the Coalescence allows Ex Oblivione to surge forward once more. Space Station spend their support ultimates there and don't really advance too much around this corner.
Yeah, and this might come down to like how Ex Oblivione invest some of these support ultimates, right? Oh, you lose Shockwave again early.
I don't know where that comes from. I don't know how they generate that kill either way. It is dire for Ex Oblivione. Chase to fall soon after. There's not enough damage to join him in the front line, and this house of cards is coming crumbling down. Cloud falls back. Hardy now will take that high ground position. Chase in desperation wants to try and switch to a Doomfist. Here's a sound barrier coming out. Canale not going to benefit from it. A Shockwave's going to TP onto the card. There's a pulse bomb in hand here for Cloud. Looking for a big stick, but Sparker definitely sidesteps it. Hardy is the primal rage now. What a perfect time for that ultimate to come up. And there's a Death Blossom from Backbone. That's going to seal the deal. Space Station Gaming overcome Ex Oblivione and advance to the main event.
Oh man, what a game! Is right there comes down to the wire potentially. I was like, the use of this sound barrier could be the difference, and they never really get a great use out of it. They lose Shockwave again early. Looks like potentially used like that Wraith form, then didn't have anything else to survive to get out, and falls apart after that.
Indeed it did. I mean, the big question here I want to pose to you guys is, did that Widow gamble break the bank in the end? Do you feel like if they would have approached it differently from the very get-go on their defense, would that have made a difference?
I actually thought, like, once they got like where the first checkpoint was, I actually thought the Widow was fine, like with that much space. I think it's just more about like their kind of like Reaper composition and setup and how they're kind of like playing around that. That's probably the difference there. I think you can argue like Coalescence versus like Kitsune Rush, like, you know, the value out of those, but like, you know, when they have Backbone inside of the Rush with the Reaper, like it was almost like a guaranteed kill or two every single time.
I mean, generally looking at this series from start to finish, I did love to see the compositional difference we had, right? We're having London sticking to that Winston comp, which really requires such a high level of cohesion and coordination. It's a very tricky comp to pull off, especially if you played into these Ramatra comps. And, you know, it worked out on some maps, really did not work out on others.
Yeah, me and Matt went back and forth about this a whole lot, because I posed you the question, like, I mean, to paraphrase, like, is the Reaper, are you just making life harder for yourself playing a Winston-based comp, right? I think against the Tracer Reaper, it can be hard. You know, against the Sojourn, like, there's a lot of merit in enforcing out those cooldowns. Or, again, so much of this is watching for Power Slide, Wraithwalk, and Fade. If you can get those cooldowns out beforehand, then you can absolutely dive and you don't have to feel bad about like the risk that sort of poses to you. Backcap there, maybe prolong the series a little bit, I'm not going to lie. And then Esperanca, obviously, we lost the last bit of it, but we could see that Hardy was struggling here to make this Winston work, especially when they'd lost the high ground. Hardy has no info when he's jumping up like this. Like, he doesn't really know who's up here.
No, it's just confidence.
Yeah.
This is all confidence, zero information based.
I mean, he's not committing for those first two jumps anyway. I don't think he really wants to do that, but he needs to keep them in check there. I thought Suravasa, though, was a bit of a blowout and was really we got to see. I think SpaceStation take the cohesion that this comp requires and just bend it into shape really nicely here against EXO.
Isn't that the most London thing to do? Just roll with the comp, whether it works or not. You just gotta make it work. Like, they just gotta force it.
Yeah.
They don't care.
I think like they have always like admitted, you know, when like they feel like a comp like fundamentally is harder to play. That's never really been enough to kind of put them off. And it gives them a distinct edge, right? Because not only like do you have to play very differently against this team, but also like, you know, SSG can switch back to a normal composition if they had to. Like, if they really felt like they were just going to lose the game, they could just switch back. You know, they have extra options there, but the fact that they're sort of blazing a trail with compositions like this, it also is great for their brand. I'm just going to put it out there. Like, people love this kind of stuff. You know, people always love London for the same reason, but they make it work and they show us the proof of concept. And a lot of teams, they end up copying them further down the line.
Indeed. I love that that's the same thing what we're going to see here in the OWCS from this squad. A lot of fun to watch, but Ex Oblivione obviously played it really close. Let's hear it from the winners in our winners interview. I believe we do have Backbone standing by for a quick chat. Question mark? Exclamation mark.
It's that boy.
Backbone.
Hello.
How you doing, my man?
Good, you?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for asking. It's been a joy watching you guys back on the server. Walk us through the locker room talk. It was a close series. How did you guys manage to edge it out? What was the game plan? What adjustments have been made towards the second half of it?
I don't know. I think we didn't change that much. Like, we talked about a couple of things that they were doing well and how to play it better. But like we're just, at the end of the day, I think we're just the better team and our comp is better. So we didn't change that much. There were one or two things that they were doing really well the first couple maps. So we just figured out, you know, how to avoid that, and we were completely fine.
Yeah, I wanna ask about the comp. Like, what do you guys see with Winston that maybe you think other teams don't really see with that hero being used?
I have no idea why other teams aren't playing Winston, honestly. I think the hero, I mean, I guess for the most part, it's in EU at least, it's teams not having the people to play it. Like, you know, if you're spray check, you probably don't want to put bets on Winston if possible. You know, for EXO, a chase torch on Winston, I feel like it'd be a good pick for them. But like, I think like the bubble, like just the mobility and everything is so strong. You can do so much off of a Winston bubble timing push. Like Winston and Reaper especially, like have such like a good synergy together too. Like it just enables the hero more than I think any other tank really does.
Yeah, it makes sense. We saw a lot of times where you guys were using your TP into the Winston bubble to really kind of set up some play.
Yeah.
I mean, very quickly, like looking ahead, obviously, like only 8 teams make it to the main event. There's a good chance like you end up playing EXO again if they come out of this group. You have the hardest group, I think, just sort of kind of based on how close your winners match has been compared to the others. But are there any teams you're sort of looking out for here that you're particularly, I don't want to say concerned, but let's say excited to get a chance to play against? Because obviously you guys, you walk into this with a lot of expectations, right? In the old days, it used to be, low expectations and you guys, got to be an underdog. Those days are over. How does that feel? How does that change things for you? And who are you looking to take on in the main event?
It's quite nice. I think right now, my team doesn't agree with me on this necessarily. Not all of us agree. I think that SpaceStation are probably the best team. So for me, it'd be wanting to play and beat them. Like, we lost to them in the Swiss. It was a close game. This is the second time we've beaten EXO in like 2 weeks. So I'm not. I wasn't worried going into this game. I'm surprised that they got a couple maps. They played it really well, honestly. I'm not worried about anyone necessarily, because I know we can beat every team, but it's just going to come down to that spray check game, realistically.
Right on. I love that. Now we can set up a grudge match. Thank you so much, Backbone, providing us with storylines as we go along. Congratulations, of course, once again to you and the team. We can't wait to see more of you.
Thank you.